that it was an experience which was going to be life-changing for us all, I think. Originally, I was just going to write a piece in one movement, and then the rather sort of overblown title, Concerto for Group and Orchestra, seemed like a pretty interesting sort of title to work towards. And I decided to cast it in 3 movements in the conventional concerto style. The very first thing that I came up with was this first clarinet tune. And it seemed to me it was slightly derivative of Shostakovich or a little bit Sibelius, I don't know, but I didn't really care. It felt good, and I did about the first 5 pages in this vein, and it was at that point that I was asked to meet Malcolm Arnold for the first time. And I was, of course, extremely nervous and intimidated. But he listened to this first part in his mind, as it were, reading the score. And after just a few seconds, he turned to the rest of the people in the room and said, "Oh, yes, this will sound very well indeed. Let's do it." And so off we went. What I was trying to do was to... in my fledgling way, having never written anything for full orchestra before, certainly never anything as long as this, was to use some established principles of composition. That's to take 2 or 3 themes and to bend them around, to use them in different ways. The whole of the first movement is actually based on about 4 or 5 themes which interact and intertwine, get played at different speeds and different feelings. And that little opening clarinet tune now becomes a great big French horn theme. The 8 horns was Malcolm's idea. I'd written for 4 originally, and he said, no, dear boy, let's have 8. Sound much better. And indeed it did. Very heroic. Now that's the huge cut. I mean, the 6 or 7 minutes have gone there, which is most distressing. It took me about 3 months to write that 6 or 7 minutes. And the whole idea here is this silly little tune which the orchestra starts, which sort of gets hold of the orchestra and they think they've got away with it, but the band dispels any idea of that. And you can hear the orchestra scurrying away in the background. It's a general idea anyway. And again, the opening clarinet theme is played by the band, slightly changed. Yes, nervous or what? Look at Roger, he's so cool. I don't understand how he must have been on something. Now here comes the first major upset of the evening, in that because nobody really knew what was going to happen. I mean, the rehearsals had been pretty much an unmitigated disaster, with the orchestra behaving, some of them, in a slightly what I would have called now childish way. One woman got up and stormed out and said she refused to play with a second-hand Beatles, which I thought was a little harsh. She hadn't joined the RPO to play second-hand Beatles music. Malcolm enticed her back. But this guitar solo I had envisaged it lasting about a minute and a half. And Ritchie had a statement to make, which was, this is as much about rock and roll as it is about orchestration and orchestra and so on. And he proceeded to just play and play and play. I mean, a stream of absolutely wonderful invention. And as you can see, Malcolm, where are we? One member of the orchestra is enjoying himself. See, I'd obviously given up playing and started hitting it. Another one sort of tapping away. I don't want to give the impression that the orchestra was sort of 100% not in favour of this. There were many people who actually who enjoyed themselves enormously. But if you look around, you will see the occasional scowl and frown, and not just from the drummer. And Malcolm still is not quite sure where everything is. Yes, raised eyebrows in the background. I think Malcolm actually was wondering whether he'd missed the cue. There is actually and I was wondering slightly whether Ritchie was ever going to move on. I think that was Malcolm trying to intimidate Ritchie Blackmore, which is, my goodness me, a very brave thing to do. There was a wonderful moment in the rehearsal when Malcolm berated the orchestra for playing badly. There's the cue. And a sort of an obvious sigh of relief from Malcolm as there he goes. Now he knows what to do with himself. This moment is it's the orchestra attempting to regain control. This is the idea of the piece, and they succeed in shutting the band up right there, and come out with this big sort of triumphant French horn theme, which a little bit Gustav Holst, but I was never one not to wear my influences on my sleeve. And then that big tune gets thrown around the orchestra a bit and played with. And the idea then was as if the group said, "Okay, well you've had your fun. We let you in, and you didn't do much with it, so it's now our turn to come back in again." Bit of a nice wrong note there from the organist. Put it down to nerves, I think. Now it's now that's actually a shot from before, isn't it? That's interesting, you see. It's just another shot of me looking angry, which doesn't seem at all fair. And now Malcolm, you see, is standing back expecting another sort of 4.5 week solo, But as I was the composer, I was able to be kind. And what happens here is the orchestra gradually creeps back in, using a fragment from the same original pair of opening themes. That's Malcolm's own form of dancing. And this is a build-up to the other guitar solo. Nice bit of amplified foot there from the guitarist. I love that guy's face just over Richie's left shoulder. I'm never quite sure whether that shot of Malcolm was him preparing the orchestra for their entry or actually trying to shut Richie up. Now this whole section here is actually a reprise of a part of the orchestration that was cut out in the film. So it doesn't actually make musical sense at the moment because we're supposed to have heard it before. And this section is the three main themes of the movement all being intertwined. And the band joining in. I'm awfully glad I don't own those trousers anymore. And as the guitar and organ had a go at a small cadenzas, I thought it was only fair that a member of the orchestra got to show off as well. And my brother had learnt to play the clarinet as a young man, and so I wrote this bit and showed it to him and said, "Is this playable?" He said, "Not by me." And once again, the race to the end here is based on the opening theme. The orchestra actually played this bit marvellously well. Again, the band and the orchestra competing to, I suppose, see who can get to the end first. This bit points up to one of the major difficulties of combining these two kinds of music. Those chords are supposed to be absolutely together, and of course what you get is us following our drummer, who's dead on the beat. Malcolm's nearly coming out of his waistcoat there, bless him. So the band is basically was following the drummer there, and unfortunately the orchestra weren't. They were following Malcolm, quite rightly so. Hello?